What's up, everybody? I'm Amanda Pollock, and let's just get into this. Okay, so the other day, the Lake Superior Twitter account had posted a tweet of them standing with women and their right to choose right after the Supreme Court overruled Roe v. Wade. Someone then replied to Lake Superior and said, "Oh, that's right, I come to you for political takes. Can't anything be fun anymore?" And they said, Lake Superior responded, "Hey, water is the most politicized resource." And that got me thinking about food creators, especially women within the food space, and should you speak up? Are you allowed to speak up? What should you say? When should you say it? This is a conversation I have with a lot of my clients as a cookbook and food memoir coach. And I feel that it's an important conversation to have because the assumption for a lot of people is if you are a woman in the food space, if you're a food creator, you're probably frivolous and just fun. And I want to say right now, if that is your brand and that is what you do, go for it. I'm not here to cast judgment on what it is that you do or do not say. I think that we have enough of that. So I'm not coming for you if you're not gonna post about something. That's my coffee maker telling me that my coffee is hot again. That's not what this video is about, okay? With that being said though, anything can be political. If you saw the HBO Max show Julia, and spoiler alert, if you haven't, there is a scene, a fictionalized scene, where Betty Friedan, who wrote The Feminine Mystique, very influential in the feminist movement in the 60s, 70s, and although not without her own controversy, but comes up to Julia Child at a dinner and basically says that you are everything wrong with what's happening with the women's movement now. You're holding us back, basically telling women just to stay in the kitchen. And this is a fictionalized scene. No one can confirm that this actually happened. But so Julia's taken aback, but has this whole conversation of whether or not she is doing that because she thought she was liberating American women by empowering them to use tools that they found in their own grocery stores, by showing them how to cook the French way, by elevating their culinary experiences. She thought she was freeing them. Someone else thinks that she's repressing them. So I want people to understand also that politics exists in everything we do. And if you think that it doesn't, it does. It really does. And it's not that you have to be thinking about it all the time, but we shouldn't just dismiss women in food and say, you shouldn't be political. That's not what this is. You can think of Lisa Donovan and her essay for Food and Wine. I'll put it down below. Dear woman, please tell your stories. And she lays out a lot of the experiences that she's had working as a pastry chef and working in restaurants. She talks about being sexually assaulted. She talks about having her own abortion. And she shares a lot of other restrictions that she had working within the restaurant industry. And so when someone is telling their story or something does come up of, fair pay or a monumental decision like this of Roe v. Wade, it is natural for women to want to share their stories. It's natural for people to want to share how that affects them. I think the question becomes, when we're really asking, should women in food be political? It's, should we raise our voices and if people get mad at us? And that's a fair question. a lot of clients who I work with get overwhelmed with social media. They're afraid they're going to say the wrong thing. How do you say it? There seems to be a lot of rules for what you should post, what you shouldn't, what captions you should use, how you should respond. And I don't like when people say, this is the exact formula for how you should respond to certain things, because people are going to get it wrong. Seen that in the last couple of years. There's been people on Instagram who have, blasted people for not having the appropriate response to a large social issue, and then they themselves responded in the exact way that they criticized other people for doing. And so I feel that regardless of how you want to post or respond, when you have an authentic and empathetic response, that is what will draw people in. When we talk about politics, I think we think that our statement has to be polarizing. It may be polarizing to some people, but I feel that the more we're empathetic and we lean into thoughtful responses, the better. Take your time. I don't think that we have to jump into a comment. I don't think we have to jump into a response when there is a large issue at hand. We are not, most of us, all of us, are not breaking news sources. So give yourself a break. There are going to be other people who will come out immediately with a response. If you need time to process, I think you should say it. If you want to ask your community a question about the issue, do it. And so that you get a better understanding of what it is that they're thinking and feeling. There's a million different ways you can respond to your community and your audience and use your platform, but you also don't have to say things. So something that I hear a lot is silence is violence. And I'm not a fan of that phrase, because technically if silence is violence, then we're all violent, because there are all very large social issues that are serious that we're not talking about. There's things all around the world that we're not talking about. There's things in our own city that we're not talking about. So I don't like that reasoning, because what people are really saying is, if you're not talking about the specific issue that is at top of my mind, that means you're a terrible person. And I'm just not a fan of that rhetoric. I don't think it's productive. I absolutely believe that we should be raising our voices for causes we believe in, but we have to remember that other people have different experiences, and their voice may be louder for a different issue that is equally as important. So just all of that to say, food is political. So, if you're kind of on the line of whether or not you should say something, I would just investigate how you could maybe bring that issue into your own brand story to create a better context. What is the call to action you want people to take? What is the takeaway you want people to have? How are you inviting people in? You're probably gonna get it wrong. I mean, we all do at some point. You're not gonna have the perfect response. And so I think if you give yourself grace with that, if the reason why you haven't said anything in the past is because you're afraid of getting it wrong, just know that the people who really get it and understand are gonna understand. And chances are, if you are afraid of getting it wrong, I think that something normally comes through, the authenticity normally comes through with that. But for people who are gonna tell you not to say something or what to say, you need to lean into where you are, what your story is, what you really are sharing from the heart, and I think that will come through. It's a process, right? It is absolutely a process, but I think if you want to use your voice, you absolutely should. And also, if the social issue that comes up is one you don't agree with, and that's why you're not posting, I just want to say that there's space for you too. Like, we don't all have to agree on the same things. We are gonna naturally disagree. And so you just have to find a way to make that okay for yourself. If you feel like, I really wish I could post something because it's different than what everyone else is saying, I also think there's empathetic, thoughtful ways to do that, to have a dissenting opinion. And that could also breed more engagement. That could just breed more thoughtful conversations. So don't count yourself out if you feel like, oh, well, who am I to say anything? I shouldn't have a voice. Just think about it. Like, just really, really think about it, and don't assume that people don't want to hear what you have to say because you're in the food space. Like, it is very political. Who's allowed in the kitchen? Who works in the kitchen? Hours, as far as like restaurant hours and what childcare looks like for restaurant workers. There's all different kinds of things that you can talk about. And so don't ever let anyone tell you that your voice isn't valid, but also don't have people tell you what to say because they want you to say something. And very much the work I do with people as I'm guiding them through the book writing process is to connect them to their best story. It's not the story I think they should be telling. It's the story that they are telling me they want to tell. And I have to help them sometimes of, remember you said that this was really important? Let's come back to this. And so you have to do that a little bit for yourself. You have to self-coach yourself during these times where a big political issue comes up and you have to ask yourself, should I say something? And chances are you already know the answer. And if you don't, just take some time, talk to some trusted people, and figure out how you're gonna do it. Because the way you tell a story and the way you communicate something important with people is totally different than the next person. And that is valuable. And don't discount that. Don't discount the way that you communicate stories and ideas to people, because it is unique to you and it is exactly what we need right now. So all of that to say, I'm just so grateful that you even watched the video up until this point. If you have any questions or you want to chat about this more, you can find me at the links below. But I hope that you take care of yourself, stay well, and just remember that your story is yours, and it's only a story you can tell. So until next time, I'll see you later. Bye.